Hey guys, welcome to episode number 60 of the Mandarin Blueprint Podcast. So this week we've got a bunch of cool emails and we've kind of switched the structure of the way we're doing the podcast to make it more entertaining, not only for regular viewers and listeners, but also for new people. Because we would usually jump straight into stuff directly related to our course, and for people not on the course, we could imagine it'd be quite confusing. So we're going to jump into some cool sort of general stuff, and then we'll work through some general updates, what's new, and then we'll go into more specific stuff for more for like members of the actual course itself. So without further ado, let's jump into an email from one of our long-term members who's smashed his way through the foundation of the course, Julian Laffey. It's a general email about study regularity, study routine. He says, "Hi guys, I've reached a point where I'm struggling a bit and I want some advice. I'm happy for this to be discussed on the podcast if you want, great. I work full-time and have other family commitments, so I only have limited time available to study Chinese. I try to study every day, but I find it difficult to prioritize how to spend my study time. I'm far enough along in the course that I have around 600 characters under my belt. However, this means that my Anki review pool, that's the flashcard app we used for all the flashcards on the course, for both, for components, for characters, for individual words, for sentences, for paragraphs, for stories. Everything's on Anki flashcards, which is the best flashcard software app out there, in our opinion. Time spent in Anki is time not spent feeding the machine. So for those of you who don't know, we're all about mass input. And the Mandarin Blueprint Method, our course, I did say I wasn't going to talk about the course in the edit, but I kind of have to for this. It's all about getting you to the ability to getting you to the point where you can read and understand Chinese as soon as possible and as enjoyably as possible. And then we have a bunch of listening and reading content for you once you get there. And it's sort of a linear process. You work your way through step by step from zero, just basic pronunciation, all the way to components and characters, and you work your way through like that. So, of course, it's a mixture of bottom-up and top-down learning, right? So you've got the bottom-up stuff, which is learning the individual characters, individual words, little pieces like that. And then you've got the top-down stuff, which is learning larger phrases. So the problem with most people who don't have Mandarin Blueprint or just try to piece it together themselves online or learn through tutors or university or whatever, they, similar to the way we were when we started out, they have a mixture of top down and bottom up, and they're sort of flitting to and fro rather than having a sort of holistic approach of a bit of bottom up. So you learn some characters and then you unlock some words and then you see that in larger contexts of sentences and have that nice sort of top-down, bottom-up, holistic balance. But it looks like Julian's struggling a little bit with that balance. So Anki is time not spent feeding the machine, not spent getting that mass input through listening and reading, according to Julian, but with comprehensible input. But if I ignore Anki, I don't make progress on new characters. I assume this is a common problem. Any tips? Cheers, Julian. All right. Okay, well, it's very personal to you, so I'm going to assume that you have 1 hour a day, cut up throughout the day. Like that's what most people can manage that, even if they say they can't. They can manage an hour, right? 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, 20 minutes there, half an hour there. So let's say if you have an hour, that's it. You must do your reviews every day. Okay, so finish your reviews. You know that by now, Julian. Finish your flashcard reviews. That's what keeps the stuff you've already spent the effort learning. So, for example, characters using the hand-to-movement method, our memory technique for that, or new words or things like that. So, but also at this point, you've got 600 characters. So you're well into the final phase, that is currently the final phase, where you've got longer form reading. And all these come with flashcards as well. So that's one thing I wanted to mention that I want to delineate a little bit here, is because you've got not just individual bottom-up kind of like characters and words in flashcards, but you've got longer form content as well. You are listening and reading if you are also reviewing the sentences. There's a heck of a lot you can do with individual sentences. So I'm going to assume, for argument's sake, that you are referring specifically to characters. Like, how much time do I spend on the characters and how much do I spend on other, longer form content, the other types of flashcards that we have? I would say you should set specific time, get your review cards done. You've already done a bunch of new cards up until now, so you've probably, even if you did slow down your new cards for new characters, you've probably still got a build up. It's going to take a few days or even weeks for that to sort of balance out and sort of get to a nice lower level of new reviews every day. But I would say if you're really finding it hard to manage, go from, say you're doing 20 characters a day, then just go straight down to 5 characters a day and focus more on the sentence flashcards. Sentences are more than enough to acquire the language, especially from beginner to intermediate and even into advanced, really. It's just that the only reason why we try to get you to do longer form content as early as possible is because it's more engaging. It's larger context, the better. So you're more involved, emotionally invested in the content, and therefore you're more engaged, and therefore you'll get more out of it. So I would say focus on the longer form, but you should really keep those characters going. You've got to keep those characters going. If you want to take a break for a week and let your reviews chill out, that's fine. Go 0 characters for a week or 2. And take a break there, but you've got to keep going with the characters until you've got through all of them. And all of them, I mean, we have 1,500 at the moment. Within a year, we'll have the 3,000 most likely, but 1,500 is a new expansion, which I will update you on in just a minute. But yeah, it's a tough question, Julian, because it depends on you. But that's what I would do. That's what I did do. Characters must be the core, because all of the other content in the course and in Chinese in general doesn't just apply to the Mandarin Blueprint method. It gets unlocked, as it were. The characters are the core of the entire language. It controls your progress everywhere else. So they must be a focus, but you can definitely lower that focus. So if you have an hour a day, let's go back to that time sort of advice there, based on an hour. Half an hour or 15 minutes to half an hour for reviews, another 15 minutes for new characters, another 15 minutes for other content. And then if you can also put in, and maybe you do it differently, maybe you have 15 minutes to eventually, once the reviews have chilled out a little bit, you've got 15 minutes for reviews, you get that done, 20 minutes or whatever it is, and then another 10 minutes for new characters, or 5 minutes. You just get and by now you'll be awesome at the character method, so you could whack out 1 or even 2 characters a minute with the current level that you're probably at. So you could do 10 characters or 5 characters in a few minutes, and then the other half an hour or so is spent reviewing sentences. And you can still use Anki for that, by the way, right? I'm talking about Anki sentence flashcards, which is still input, or just generally reading our EPUBs, or just other content, other Chinese content, which is that we don't currently offer. We're always big proponents of use the Mandarin Blueprint for your core. That's your main focus of study, and then also branch out to other things to keep everything fresh. So I always recommend link.com, LINGQ. Obviously these are paid, right? So I don't get paid for these recommendations, by the way. I probably should. Not as business minded as I should be, right? But Chinese Pod is a paid one as well. Pop-Up Chinese is sort of paid and not. You can get the free version if you like, if you just use the web app itself, or at least that's the situation the last time I checked. I love Pop-Up Chinese. They're very, very interesting little podcast dialogues. They come with EPUBs as well. PDFs for text as well. Slow Chinese is a free one. It's great audio, and it's what it sounds like. It's just a guy and a girl just reading nice little Chinese articles slowly and in a nice standard Mandarin voice. There's all sorts of other stuff. Fluent U, of course, Fluent Forever is a app, but they don't have Chinese yet. Sorry, they will soon. All sorts of things like that. But those were my favorites when I was getting into it. But there's loads of stuff out there. Chinese Class 101. Find some audio content with text and review it that way. Develop a load of little things on your little things. That's really specific, isn't it? Like podcast dialogues, for example. Collect those on your phone. Say you've got iTunes on your phone, right? Just build up a bunch of those little dialogues and have them on shuffle. Just play them. Try and shadow them. Read along with them if you have them organized. That's something I would do on top of that. If you have more than an hour a day, the rest of that time is focused on that sort of content. So I hope that answers the question there, Julian. Get in touch at contact@mandarinblueprint.com if you want a more detail on that. I'd be happy to go through it with you. Okay, the next comment we have is from YOUNESS MESKAR on bonus, the language learning tripod part 3 time. So this is an inspiration from Steve Kaufman from Link, who I already mentioned. And it's all about the three important things about language learning, which is paying attention, noticing things, attitude, having a good, positive, confident attitude, and time, putting in the time. So we say that you should put in at least 30 minutes a day, preferably an hour. If you want to see results like regularly, like every 2 or 3 months, you want to have like some sort of breakthrough. And he says, YOUNESS says, thanks for all the efforts you have put in. I live in London and normally travel by tube and have no access to the internet. It can be 1 hour of practice if we could access the Blueprint courses by downloading it in an application. Are you thinking about making an app for Apple or Android? Well, thank you for the compliment. And yes, of course, yes. We currently have a video course. It's in a video course app. And the video course does have an app, but it doesn't work offline, like most apps really. It doesn't work offline. And even if we did have a fully functioning app, which would take $1 million and 6 to 12 months to at least to put out, then it would still work with the internet. It would still need the internet for most of it. Okay, but if you have a 1 hour and you don't have internet, this is just how I actually commented to YOUNESS. I was like, this is the state of the tube, right? It hasn't changed much since 1890 or whatever. Since we don't even have internet. Come on, China's beating us on that one, or anywhere in Asia really. So, yeah, if you have an hour and you don't have internet, this is what I recommend. First of all, Anki, like your actual flashcard, the flashcard app that we use for all of our flashcards, doesn't need the internet to review. You need it to make new cards, I guess, because you want to fill words. But even doing that, it's not that important. So you can review without the internet. So I would save that hour mostly for my Anki reviews in the morning, because I guess it would be in the morning you're commuting, right? That would be great. If you don't want to do that, I would say all the stuff I said about other content, or like our EPUBs, our audio stuff, like it's got audio built into the EPUB, so you can, and text tracking as well. So that works all offline if you have iOS or a Mac. Windows is a bit more, of course, or Android is a bit more challenging. But there's things like that, so you can use that sort of content. There's also a lot of Chinese radio and TV apps for general immersion, and some of these are a bit high level. So of course you might want to go for like the Chinese pop-up Chinese things, or download our individual dialogues, sentences from our using the flashcards, and just do it for the audio. And you want to have these on shuffle. You can just go through, maybe read or even shadow if you're not too worried about people judging you. But the idea is that you need to use your smartphone as that's your core of your immersion. That's your immersion resource, right? So you want to build up as much of stuff on there as you can. You can download videos. There's loads of anime and loads of cartoons, or loads of even films with full Chinese audio that you can just download. Obviously that's a Chinese app, so it may be difficult to access, but like I said, there's lots of stuff out there. Build it up on your phone, dialogues, text, PDFs, and use that time to immerse yourself for half of that time, perhaps. The other half spent flashcards or whatever. So that's what I would recommend. The next one here is from Brett Young by email. He says, the Mandarin Companion Podcast recently talked about something I've been struggling with. When words are made of multiple characters, the meaning is not always apparent. I have watched your videos on how to remember words, but without the background on why the combination of characters has a certain meaning. It is very difficult for me to remember. Could you provide some of the meaning behind words like you did with 马上, horse on? Or is there a website or a book that has this information? Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to include a link to the various ways of memorizing Chinese words. It's a clip that Phil did. We talk about several techniques that you can use to create connections to new compound words. So yes, the meaning of certain compound words is not always apparent. Absolutely right, because of these reasons. And often the word is kind of old. I mean, a lot of Chinese words are old, of course, but one of the meanings of the characters doesn't mean what it used to mean anymore. And so the connection is kind of lost. This is fairly common. And the answer is similar to how we learn characters, to use your imagination a little bit. But let's first go through some examples. So you gave the example of 马上. 马上 means immediately or right away. And it's a very old word, 马上. I'm on the horse. It's like, I'm on the horse. Yeah, it's like saying, yep, I'm just leaving the house. I'm just getting in the car right now. I'm on my way. 马上, I'm on the horse, I'm going to be there. So that makes a lot of sense. And even if you didn't know that cultural tidbit, you could sort of make a mnemonic quite easily. It's like, yes, I'm already on the horse. I'm literally on the way to you. Or get the idea of getting on the horse and rushing to someone. It's kind of visual, right? So that's kind of great. But what about if it's not obvious? So I've just chosen some examples beforehand just to go through them, sort of ranging in difficulty. So one is, of course, we've done 马上. The next one is 说明. This is actually what Phil talks about as an example in the video we talked about. So 说 means to speak and 明 means bright or clear. So the word itself means to explain. 说明, and it's actually I forget what kind of word it is now. There are 7 different types of compound word. This is basically one that's like action or verb and then result. What's the result of that verb? And that tells you the meaning of the entire word. So when I speak until something is clear, I shored until it was minged, then it's to explain. And that makes, you could make like in your flashcard, you could have a picture of this is very important. Pictures are vital. You could have a picture of someone explaining something. When we used to teach this live, we used to get all sorts of cool responses. We used to walk people through with their computers and teach them how to do this and how to, more importantly, make the connection to images. Everything comes back to an image. That's very key. So even if your connection is very tenuous and personal to you, you still got to have an image to represent it because it's going to increase your retention of that word many times over. So we had one guy, I remember this very clearly, he had what's his name, Hagrid from Harry Potter explaining that scene where he's like, you're a wizard, Harry, explaining that he's a thing. Right? It doesn't need any sort of written explanation there at all. But you could write a note showing how you make the connection between the two characters. 原因 is another one. 原因means reason. This means reason. 原 means original, and 因 means cause. So the original cause is the reason. So that sort of explains itself in a way. But you could always, and you could back that up with a picture. And you wouldn't really need to write much there. I mean, it's one of those. It's very very clear if you know the meaning, and you learn the right meaning of the character. That makes sense with 原因. And again, you could write, if you're more of that sort of person, you like to write things out in little notes, put the note in your flashcard. In our flashcards, we give you that little quang, the little, I get that a lot. You remember the Chinese word, but you don't remember the English word. Little box, little field that you can fill in that information for yourself if you want. You can say, oh, the original meaning, the original reason is the cause. And then maybe you could have like, I don't know, a picture that shows the cause of something. Maybe like a volcano underwater creates a tidal wave. You can have that picture of that if that's the connection you make. That's the one I just made right then. So that's what I would do. And similar to this, by the way, just as an aside, I like to go on tangents, but with this sort of thing, it follows a similar principle to how we teach you mnemonics and how we teach you how to learn characters, because you should go with your first instinct. What do you connect to the word emotionally for your memories? Immediately go with that and choose a picture for it, or 2 or 3 or 4. Bunch of pictures is fine too. 统计 is another one. So this is another example. I was trying to think of a more difficult one, right? It's not immediately obvious. So this means 统计 means a couple of things. It means to count, means statistics. So that's another key thing. So when you get more challenging ones like this, one of the first things I would recommend, let me just get this here, is that you go through Pleco or Plico. I still don't know how to say it after all these years. You go through Pleco and you type in your character, your word, type in the whole word first. And often, just like with 统计, you'll get several meanings for the same word. So yeah, so I've got a verb meaning statistics, and it also means to add up, to count. 统计出席人数, okay. 出席人数, okay. So 统计, so I like that idea of counting up, and that actually, that meaning, even if it's not the meaning that we present to you, you can, if that meaning that we present to you is you can't make a connection to it, check Pleco and see another connection. Both of those work quite well. Like statistics, for example, that works fine with the characters. That makes sense. But try out both. So let's go with add up or count first. To 统计 something, like to 计, to 算, right? To count something. So 统 as a character means together, unified, interconnected, gather as one, like 统一, like it means to unite as a people or whatever. You don't need to know that. You just click on the character in Pleco and it tells you all the different definitions. And then immediately click on 计. Now I know 计 to mean to count, but it also means plan, an idea, a strategy, a plan. And it also means, as a verb, it means to count. So you've got all these different ideas. So think of these as two like columns of ideas, and you just need to draw a line and connect two that makes sense. It doesn't have to actually be the real way that characters are supposed to make up the word. Do you see what I mean? So like maybe the original maker of this word said, 统计 is statistics, because 统 means all and 计 means to count. So you're counting 100%, you're counting out of 100%, all count. That's what statistics are, they're percentages, right? So, that makes sense. But it doesn't matter. If you don't make that connection, make another one, right? So for example, 统 also means interconnected, interrelated, or it just means all, or just means together. So you could even, this is going to get silly now, I'm just doing this off the top of my head, but you could say ideas, ruse, or a strategy. So you can think like, you could imagine a connection between, like, I don't know, I'm just randomly thinking here, Guy Fawkes, right? That was like, for me as a British person, Guy Fawkes is like the famous conspirator that wanted to blow up Buckingham Palace. That's what November the 5th is all about. So I get it's all planning. So I can imagine all of them are planning, and they're adding up sticks of dynamite underneath. And I've got a picture. I make that connection. That's like, it's nothing to do with the original meaning of the two characters, and they're not connected. But I'm creating like a crazy mnemonic story, similar to the way I would with individual characters, but except there's no real plan for this one. There's no system. I'm just doing it on the fly. And then I'll go and find a picture of Guy Fawkes, or a painting, a representation of Guy Fawkes and his crew, and put that in my flashcard, boom, next. And do you know what? Again, that really was off the top of my head. That might sound absolutely mental to someone listening, but I would try that out. If I couldn't think of a more logical, easy route, I would go for something a bit more abstract like that. And then I would come back to it later, because I'm going to review that card soon, right? So in a week or something, I'll review it and I get a better idea. I hit edit and I change the picture and I change the note I put in and just change it to something else. Whatever works, whatever doesn't, change it, right? So I hope that's not too convoluted there. So we've got one more is that I thought was quite difficult, is 经济, which means economy, 经济. So let's actually, again, I'm going to go in Pleco, and you might find that 经, so 经 means a bunch of things. So if you type in 经, this character, J-I-N-G, it just means, how many definitions do I have in Pleco here? I've got 6 definitions just as a noun. And then I've got 2 more as a verb, another as an adjective. It's got a ton. So I've got lots. That's a good thing, by the way, because you've got a lot to choose from. It's best to choose a more common meaning, of course, but it's fine, right? So you've got, and it's best to choose the meaning that you use to learn the character. That's ideal. But, you can't have everything. So 经 means, like, the meaning I'd say is most common, the most useful is to pass someone. But, like, as in, it can also be experience, like 经历 or 经验, right? To have experience, to pass through life and have experience. And that's a good way of learning that word, by the way. 经验, 经历. The power of passing. Yeah, anyway, I'm digressing again. So you find 经 and then you find 济. 济 actually means a few things, like aid, like as in financial aid, relief, as well. I mean, you could take that to be in both ways, right? So, what we've got passing and then relief. So if you have a good economy passes you by. That is relieving for everyone. If you have a boom in the economy, that passes. But also you could see it another way. You could say everything in economy is currently always moving. It's always passing. It's always, it's moving past you all the time. And this is just my brain just firing and thinking. And as soon as you get something, you think, that could be a picture. Put the keyword phrase into Google or whatever you use. And then put that picture in your flashcards, move on. Don't overthink it. Make that connection between the characters. It doesn't have to, again, like the whole sort of moral of this story is that, yes, sometimes the character relationship is not immediately obvious, but you can make up one based on your whatever knowledge of the individual characters you have. Now, if you don't know the individual characters, you need to go back a step and you need to learn those characters first. Otherwise, you're not really going to fully learn the word, in my opinion. And I'll put this phone down. But you get the idea. So I hope that helps. We used to go through helping people out with exactly stuff like this all the time. It was part of our live class, like I said. And there was always these sort of questions and issues that came up. And the basic gist is not to worry too much. Like, even if you don't come up with any connection whatsoever, you've just got two characters together. You know the characters, but you don't know how they make up this word. Do you know what? Just put it in your flashcard anyway. Search. This was like the last ditch effort before moving on to the next thing, right? Because you can't focus like 10, 20 minutes on one little word. It's not worth the effort right now. So if you really can't think of a connection in like 1 or 2 minutes, we used to time people. If you can't do it in 1 or 2 minutes max, you're really sort of thinking of a connection in 1 minute. Move on. Type that word in Chinese or English, whichever meaning you like, into Google. Get a picture that's somewhat related to the translated meaning of it in English. Stick that picture in the card. Move on. You'll next time you see that card, you might get you will likely actually get a bit of inspiration and improve it then. Okay, so I hope that helps. And let's move on to the next question. Okay, but one more quick comment here from Daniel Leo Simpson on this is what your study session should look like. So he says, very helpful. Thank you for putting that together. Also motivational. I got my Anki deck opened again. Thank you guys. So we're talking a lot about Anki today. Phil recently put together this video just describing what should your average study session look like with the Mandarin Blueprint Method and our materials. Like, what windows should you have open, exactly what to do throughout learning characters, components, words, how to use Anki in the best possible way to get the most out of the course. And it was clearly a very good video because we got a lot of people commenting, saying it really helped them and got them to open Anki again, which is half the battle, just because Anki does take some getting used to and that can turn some people off. But once you get used to it, guys, it's the best. It's so motivating. Like Julian, who we were talking about earlier, one of the things he says in his case study, I interviewed him, and he was like, I drive my missus up the wall because the first thing I do in the morning is grab Anki. It's really nice when it gets to that level. Okay, so I haven't given you any updates for the course yet, have we? So again, if you didn't check out the last podcast, we've got 5 more levels out. I believe we're up to level 47 now, only 10 more levels to go, which we'll have out over the next few weeks, hopefully within a couple of months. Definitely have all those out. 1,500 characters, 4,000 words. It's like 94% total coverage of the language, guys. It's amazing. It's very exciting. We're still making more videos as well because we realized that after the first 100 or so characters, we are sort of, there's not that many videos and people sort of missed seeing us for some reason. I couldn't imagine it why, but we're going to make more videos just to 充实一下, enrich the course a little bit, give it a bit more dense content. So that's awesome. There's a few other things that, as usual, I've forgotten, but it'll probably come in my mind whilst I'm in the middle of making another point in a bit. But that's the gist. So things are happening, guys. The course's expansion is almost complete, and we're really happy. Oh, one thing I wanted to mention. There you go. one of our best clients, I want to give a shout out to Ija. She passed the HSK4 in 5 months. HSK4 is there's 6 levels to the HSK. The 汉语水平考试 is the exam for the benchmark, basically. It's the only exam that is official and exists for Mandarin Chinese. HSK4 is very respectable, but it's incredibly respectable if you do it in 5 months. Now, it wasn't from zero. She said she had 3 months of prior training, but it was just basic stuff like pronunciation and pinyin and that. No, not much. I don't think she had any characters by that point, or very few. So, and she said as well, you know, some of you who are on the course, you'd be like, oh, wait a minute, you don't even include all of the HSK4 at the time of making this podcast because we haven't quite finished the expansion. When we finish the expansion, it will definitely cover HSK4 and a bunch of HSK5 and 6. You know, it's 4,000 words. But at the time of Ija doing all this, she didn't have it. But what she did, she took our methods for learning characters and the characters and words and the content that we provided, and she applied it to, and she's very autodidact. She went and searched for the HSK vocabulary out there. I imagine she did a couple of practice tests and just took it upon herself to apply our methods to other content, other word lists and character lists in order to learn what she needed to learn. And then she passed the HSK4 in 5 months from pretty much zero. So that's not only a testament to her, I mean, it's not only a testament to the course, but it's more of a testament to her as like being proactive. You know, this is someone with a bunch of kids as well, right? And it's like, you know, very full life, very lot going on, very busy. She's a coder. She's training to be a doctor, I believe. So there's all sorts of stuff going on, but she still finds that time, 2 or 3 hours a day with Chinese. You know, so it's possible, guys. I think you could even, you know, we're waiting for someone to break that record. Who can do the HSK4 in 3 months? You know, from zero. You'd have to put in obviously a little bit more time per day, but it's doable with this method, guys. So well done, Ija, and I'll wait to hear from you on your results from the HSK5 in another few months. So next, we've got movies. So this is where, for those of you who aren't aware, we bring everything together. So we've got props, actors, and sets. These all represent the components, the opinion initials, and the opinion finals, respectively. And then the movies are where all these things come together, and in your mind you make your actors, just people, interact with objects in places from your life, and that represents the meaning of characters. And that's what we call movies. So here's some cool movies that we got this week from various people on the course. The first one I want to share is from Kathleen Gans, Make a Movie for E. Now, if you look at this character, it's not only pretty tough to learn, because it's quite randomly, it's not a very standard formation of any character. You don't see this sort of formation at all anywhere else. It's also a very abstract, one of the most abstract keyword meanings. This character means a couple of things. The meaning that we chose is by means of. Okay, so it's not only tough to grasp grammatically, but it's also just generally, how do you visualize that? Well, you'd be surprised. It's actually really easy if you know the method, and we train you on how to make these connections, of course. She says, in my scene, a person's umbrella, that'll be the right side component, is destroyed by means of a hailstorm. A huge tennis ball, the size of hail, frozen one drop water, that's the drop component you see in there, falls on the umbrella, breaking the top apart from the hooked shape handle. It falls to the right and it hits the ground inverted. Yeah, so this is a very abstract meaning, by means of, and I think Kathleen has done it in a very good way. I imagine that a person's umbrella, it's not showing anyone interacting with the hail, so I like that idea. Like the way I would do this personally, I would add a little tweak perhaps. Not to say this doesn't work, but I would personally do this, where I'd have either myself or another actor or an extra, like a copy of the actor or someone else, actually like really trying, like you can see on their face, they're really trying to do this. Like they're trying to figure out how to break that umbrella. and or maybe they're looking for a means by which to do this, and they see this ball or this hail or this drop or whatever it is, and they're like, yes, and then they overact the entire time, and then they use that to break it. Just to show, again, when the more abstract the meaning is, the more you have to rely on less tangible stuff like gestures, facial expressions, the close-ups. You can do. This is a great opportunity to use close-ups on someone's face, like really see what they're going to say. You know, good. So next, Abigail, make a movie for 始, which is 开始的始. So it basically means to start, beginning. So she says, my SH actor, Subhash, enters the living room of my childhood home to find it a complete mess. Paddington has smeared lipstick all over the walls, a new carpet, sofa and TV. With a look of extreme desperation on his face, Subhash doesn't know where to begin in starting to clean it all up. Great concept. And again, I'm adding my own visuals in here, and I imagine you are too. But the little details are the most important part, like showing the idea of beginning, like rolling up her sleeves, like she's looking at it, she's like, he is looking at it, and he's like very exasperated, desperation on his face, that emotion, and then he's like rolls up the sleeves, and then the scene ends, because it's all about the beginning, not the actual process of cleaning, right? Fantastic. Next one is Jonathan Pritchard, who is one of our esteemed members, because he is actually a professional mentalist, as he says, and he does this for a living. He does this mental gymnastics for a living. So we're very honoured to have him on the course. He says, my scene is very uncomfortable, and I'll never forget it. What a hilariously distasteful image. And thank you very much for the younger audience on the course for not sharing that thing in your mind. Thank you very much. But I will just say this, some of the nastier stuff, whether it's violence or whatever it is, that can be memorable, and it's very effective for a lot of people. But that's all I'm going to say on it. All right, I want to keep this PG. Next, we've got a long one from Guillaume Lermit on Make a Movie for Gan. So Guillaume has just started the course. He's well into it, and he's interacting with us a lot. He's sending us a lot of comments. We love it. So let's see how he does on one of his first scenes. He says it's a wobbly scene, which means, I guess, not. It's got a bit of mess. He wants me to help maybe sort some details out, which I'm happy to do. So first, a prop biplane. Biplane, as in two parallel wings, Canadair with big pipe hanging from below the Canadair in order to drop the water to a specific point. Very specific. I like it. The set outside my insurance agency. The name of the insurance company I contracted with is Gan Insurance. Gan Insurance, nice, but don't make sets just for individual characters, right? I mean that's a nice coincidence, but please don't let that affect any other things. Don't let that restrict you. Actor, my insurance agent, with a big and easily recognizable logo on his jacket. Gan is written on the logo. First mistake. I'll get into that in just a second. I've met him several times, and I can easily view his face in my mind. Logos, symbols do not work. That's the whole reason. Anything that's 2D and is a symbol, it's not a 3D object that you can interact with. Like the actual badge itself, that is fine. But anything that's a logo, 2D, doesn't work. That's the whole point we're using this method, to not imagine the characters. But this is a very common misunderstanding. The scene preparation. I subscribed an insurance contract to prevent my flowers from being thirsty during summertime. Unfortunately, I did not read entirely the small print of the contract. This summer, a terrible drought happened with water cut decided by the government. I phoned to my agent claiming I need some water. He said, okay, but I had to collect the water at the office. Oh my God, this is getting really deep now. I said, why? He said that I would understand when I get there. I said, all right, and jumped into my car with my 5-gallon bucket on the back seat. Is this a real story? Right, so the scene by itself, when I get to the insurance office, okay. Right, the insurance agent is waiting for me outside the office. Agent, I've been through the insurance policy and there may be a tricky point for you. Me, which one? Agent, the policy says we have to provide some water by all means. Me, that's great. Wait, says the agent. The policy does not specify under what form the delivery has to be done. Me, and? Agent, in our case, because of the drought, the only way to provide water was to order a Canadair. Me, that's fine. Where is the problem? Well, agent, in order not to run out of fuel when it gets back to the sea and the Canadair has to do a full delivery. Me, and agent, are you ready to receive 6,000 litres in your car from the pipe of a Canadair? Me, oh my God. Agent, listen, the Canadair is coming now. If you don't mind, I will go back inside my office and close the door. Bye-bye. Questions. There is a perfect match between the pinion and the name of my insurance company, but the whole lot is a bit wobbly. The link between the actor and the first letter of the opinion is only based upon the logo in his jacket. I think it's not relevant. It isn't relevant, but those little details are fine. But again, the logo does not help you at all. Okay, I'd rather not use an actor at all, but the directly logo is displayed in the window of the office if I could. Is it possible to do so? No, you follow the method. Don't try and change the basic structure of the method. You have to use actors. You have to use sets. And this is funny because when we get these early comments, I know that 99% chance you've already figured out everything because you just kept watching videos. If you just keep watching the videos, we make it all clear. Everything. We made 300 videos in the first for the first 105 characters to make sure we'd covered everything about the method. But maybe we probably don't make that clear enough, to be honest. That we're like, don't worry, guys, we'll figure all this out. Just keep going. But let me go through your actual scene. So first of all, there's way too much detail that isn't relevant, right? Now, if this all came to you in seconds, but it's just obviously you've written it all out, it's taken a while, that's fine. But please do not go to this much effort. All you need to go straight to the Canadair. I don't know what you're using in this scene to represent what are you using here? I don't know what the drop of water. What's the water doing, and where's the horizontal line? So I'm not sure what your props are. Please don't reinvent that. The main aspects. So like, what are props? What are sets? What are actors? Follow those guidelines. That's very important. Now, there's other stuff you don't have to follow. Like whether you imagine this specific thing or another specific thing, or how you imagine it, or whether you take our general instructions that way. That's fine. You don't need scene preparation. You don't need any backstory whatsoever. Just jump straight into it. You've got a great prop there with the biplane. That's awesome. And general concept is good. I'm dry, we need water. But you could do all this in one line. You are there, or your actor is there, and he's dying of thirst, and the biplane comes and drops some water on him. I don't even like the idea of dropping water because it's like it's an extra thing you're including, and it's not really related to anything in the character, but it's related directly to the keyword, so it's fine. We can do that. But in general, just try and keep it simple. That's our number one rule or guideline. That one you don't have to follow, but it's best you do because it's going to make your life a lot easier. Good try. You've got a lot of detail, which I like, but the details have to be relevant. So all of this talking and stuff, it's very entertaining. I like it, and it's going to really entertain other people and really motivate them. But for saving your time and energy, don't worry about that. Just go straight get to the meat of the scene. That would be my advice. But you're off to a great start, and I'm sure you're already doing much, much better with your later scenes. But well done. So Ellery Hall has got another movie for Kai, which means to open, or just open, sorry. She says, I used a Hershey bar instead of Bill Gates. So in this character, we've got the horizontal line at the top, and then for the bottom component, we recommend, because this is actually, the original meaning is two hands. So we say a handshake. So this is how we jump to that. We say, all right, think of a famous businessman that you know. Someone like, I don't know, Donald Trump or, Bill Gates is actually our main suggestion. So, but she says, Ellery says, instead of using Bill Gates, she's going to go with a Hershey bar because it looks like an H. So you can base it on the meaning or the appearance. It's all good, or both. Because it looks like an H to me, that's good. So Keith Sutherland, that's K, is outside of my AI set looking distressed about this gigantic Hershey bar. He knows there is a bomb inside. Oh, great. I can hear the 24 tick-tock sound going as well. Looking around, he finds a rusty razor blade and yells, "There's no time," and then uses it to open the candy bar. Mwah! That was beautiful. Very simple. You even mentioned some emotional content in there, which is ideal. Distressed. Really. Brilliant. Okay, so we'll finish off the podcast with just a few little tidbits. We've got one actor that someone chose. John Hay says casting call for Lu. Lu is like anything that's U, like Lu, Nu, Shu, Yu. These are all sort of world leaders or gods. It's like a separate category of people. And he says, not a world leader, and certainly not a god, but just as influential. Lucifer, the fallen angel. Satan, the devil. Brilliant. Props. So we've got 3 props. These are objects that are used to represent the components of characters you learn. They should be very personal to you. So I thought I'd mention these 3 because they're very good. The first one is Guillaume. Sorry, I'm pronouncing that wrong. I'll figure that out. Guillaume Lermit on don't pick a prop for San. Look how easy that was. So for number 3. So number 3 is just 3 vertical lines like that. And it is used as a prop, as a component in other characters occasionally. And he's got a great one here. This is Adidas 3-banded shoes. I don't know what the meaning is there, but you know what I mean. So there's the famous Adidas 3 lines. So you could have someone wearing big Adidas shoes, just to make that nice and clear. Ellery Hall on pick a prop for Yao. She says, I'm going to go with arm wrestling, since my other prop for the bottom component is the flexing arm. It kind of looks like that, doesn't it? So that's great. And Deborah Jansen, just one last one to end the podcast here. Pick a prop for in. And I like this one just because the connection is so tenuous, but it's going to work for Deborah. It is in means cause. It means the reason, the cause. It says mahjong tile mahjong. Because I've played it for years. Because I've played it for years. So mahjong and in has, cause. But she's made that connection so it works. So that's it for today, guys. I hope that was useful to you. If you've got any comments at all, you can just comment below. Or you can get in touch via contact@mandarinblueprint.com. If you're not on the course, you're curious, if you listened this far into the podcast, you're probably curious by now. Go and check it out at mandarinblueprint.com. And thanks, guys. I will see you in a couple of weeks. Bye-bye.